Hey all, thanks so much for clicking this. So a little backstory here. About a month ago, I was able to get in touch with Robert Shafer, who we all know as
Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration. Stanley Hudson. Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration.
Ryan Howard.
Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration.
What line of work you in, Bob?
Robert was extremely gracious with me, and we got to sync up on Skype, and he answered everything that I threw at him. I had about a half an hour planned, and we talked for nearly an hour, so I've edited this down as much as I could without losing any of the integrity of the stories that Robert was telling. Robert shares some great behind-the-scenes moments and other insights. If you like this sort of thing, give this video a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. The bigger the channel gets, the more credit I have when talking to folks about doing interviews. So I hope you enjoy. This was already one of the highlights of my brief time here on this channel. All right, so hey, we're here with Robert Shafer. Bob Vance, I am super honored to be here with you this morning. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. I'm sure you get asked questions about The Office all the time, and I'm honored to just be one of the voices in that mix. I love all the Office gear that you've got on and everything that's in the background here. So just thank you so much.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mullen, for having me. Well, this is my little office studio. I shoot videos for the fans on cameo.com, and I've done about 500 of them this last year. And, happy birthday, congratulations, bar mitzvahs, breakups, everything. So I'd like to, give office flavor. And, of course, I have the sign, the real signage from the show. So
kind of want to dig in a little bit more to the cameo that you did a breakup, but maybe we'll save that for later.
Sure.
It's pretty awesome.
It's awkward.
Sure. So, and if you're interested, I'll put a link to that in the description too, so people can find out.
Generate more business for Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration.
There we go. Okay, cool. So I thought I'd start off with a round of quick questions. So quick questions, quick answers. Are you a fan of The Office?
Of course.
Who's your favorite character?
Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration.
Okay, outside yourself?
No brainer. Phyllis Vance, Vance Refrigeration.
That's awesome. Okay, what's your favorite episode?
Phyllis's Wedding.
Who was more fun to portray, Psycho Cop or Bob Vance?
Bob Vance.
All right, what about favorite recent movie you've seen?
1917 was good, not great. The film suffered from the over stylization of the single shot. There's a reason you have close-ups in film. He didn't want to break. He's got the single shot, so it takes away the intimacy that you bond with the characters, right? That was the thing about The Office, the close-ups. I mean, the camera looks, the talking heads, as we call them, that created that bond, that we broke that fourth wall. I mean, so, 1917, it's good. Not great.
Okay, last quick question. Was Bob Vance the Scranton Strangler?
Oh, no, of course not.
Okay.
No. Bob's a United States Marine Corps infantry combat officer from Vietnam, of course, which in some circles may have qualified him, but, no. A Marine, always, once and forever.
So some general open-ended questions for you. How did you get into acting? Why is that something that you wanted to pursue?
It wasn't. I just happened to fall in love with an actress, and I started going to her sets, and then I met some agents, and they said go to this acting class, and so I did, and I spent 3 years there with Meg Ryan and Nick Cage and Sean Penn and Michelle Pfeiffer and Jeff Goldblum and on, and it was a great. We are Stanislavski actors, method actors, and the lady who taught the class was named Peggy Fury, and she came from the Actors Studio, the James Dean, Marlon Brando era of the Actors Studio. So that was an incredible connection to that. And we studied playwright, and we weren't concerned about film and television. We learned how to act, and that's how I got started.
The role for Psycho Cop came around. What attracted you to that?
Well, first of all, it's the title character in a potential franchise. So hell yes. And that was just a submission that I made. I used to get this thing called Backstage Weekly. And so there would be listings of what you could submit to, and you put your photo in an envelope and you take it to the mailbox, and maybe you get a call, maybe you don't. So I got a call for it, and I went to the audition, and it happened to be a play by Sam Shepard called True West. That is a landmark play. It's been done by all the great guys. I had just seen a performance of it with John Malkovich and Gary Sinise, and I loved this play. So I knew it completely cold, and none of the other actors could do it at all. I mean, I could hear them. I was in the waiting room, and they're in the room, and they're just butchering it. I mean, Shepard's tough. The language is very precise, and you have to really you really have to know it to do it, right? You can't read it. It's hard to read. So I went in and did it, and I knew immediately I got it. I just made one little move like I was going to punch the guy, and right then I saw the director. The light went off, and they offered me the part. But it took several months to bring it to bear. The funny story: the producer was Cassian Elwes, whose brother is Carrie Elwes, the actor from Princess Bride, and that's one of them. Anyway, Cassian, he wasn't sure he was going to make it. I don't think he ever actually even read the script. I think he just liked the title, So it ended up about 3 months. I rented the police outfit from Western Costume, and I showed up at his office in Beverly Hills in the middle of the afternoon, uninvited, unannounced, just showed up in the outfit. And I went in the office and acted tough, for about a half hour or so. And finally he looks at me and he goes, "Okay, we'll make it." So we started shooting it about a month later, and it was a blast.
How did you find yourself playing Bob Vance on The Office?
Well, that was an audition. I got a call for it, and it was Allison Jones, who's the great comedy casting director. So I'm very excited about it. I had seen the first season, a couple episodes of it, and I remember thinking, this is weird. What is this? And then, I went in, and the funny story about the audition is that day it was Halloween, and I didn't even know it was Halloween. That's, that's how into Halloween I am.
It's Halloween. That is really, really good timing.
And so there's extra traffic getting into Hollywood. And normally a 15-minute drive, it takes me half an hour. Now I'm running late, and I hate to be late. Now, I'm sprinting. There's no parking. I'm pouring sweat. I get into the studio. I go in. I'm the last guy of the day. They're waiting for me, which everyone hates that. So I do it, and I do it a couple times, and I can tell she likes it. But then, I wait 2 weeks. I don't hear anything. And then I get a call from the agent, and they want to see me at the studio where they shoot the episodes. And so I went in for the callback, and Phyllis was there. And she chose me, she was a casting director on the show. And so she had input, and she picked me. I think, we had chemistry. But the funny thing about the audition was they wanted me to improv. I kept doing all this improv in there. And that's not really my thing. You're not supposed to be doing it in these auditions. They're supposed to give you material. It's actually against SAG rules for you to improv them, because you're writing for them, right? Ostensibly. So I was doing all this improv, and the director was in the room, and I had a bunch of producers. And they're going, react to Michael. Like, there's Michael. What the hell? It's like when I do these sci-fi horror films, and they go, "Okay, Bobby, here comes the snake." Look, Bobby. Whoa. So yeah. Oh. So I mean, it's just how big can you do it, right? So it was fun, but the very next morning I was the first guy up shooting. So I went from the callback to the next morning, first guy on set, and I got to do a little improv on that first one. Of course, they never used it, and originally the character Bob was kind of smarmy. He was a little bit like Michael, in the sense that in one of the lines that never made the Christmas party episode was somebody says to Bob, hey Bob, how are you doing? And he looks at him and he goes, "Sextastic." Sextastic. that's something like Michael would say. That's what Michael. Again, as I said, I always just thought, listen, I'm just going to play this Marine and be here. And the only thing in my focus was Phyllis. Period. Every scene is about Phyllis. Every scene that Bob does with Phyllis, it's all about her, all the time. So, that was my choice to make it about true love. I told her when we were shooting Casino Night. So remember the first love you had in junior high school? You didn't have eyes for anyone else. That's what this. So no matter what Michael Scott does or doesn't do, or they're jackasses. I mean, he's always there to protect Phyllis no matter what, and that's it. She's on the pedestal. She's never coming down.
That's awesome. That's awesome. When you signed on, did you know that you were going to be a reoccurring character throughout the series?
Nope. Of course not. No, they like to keep you dangling and hanging, and listen, there's a competition inside the show for lines, for scenes, for camera time, face time. No. I had a hope though. I remember after I shot the first episode, I went to a screening, and with a friend, and I said, this guy could come back on this show. I have a feeling that it could be, it could be recurring. And then I got the call for Casino Night, which is one of my favorite episodes. I think that's just a perfect half hour of television, really. I mean, it's got it all. And of course, Mrs. Steve Carell is in that episode.
The Bob Vance from Vance Refrigeration bit, was that was written that way? Was that always meant to?
Oh, yes. Well, it really originated from a turn of the century way of greeting that American businessmen used to have when they would travel on a train. And they would hand out their business cards, and the greeting would be your name, Bob Vance, your business, Vance Refrigeration, your hometown, Scranton, Pennsylvania. So now when I do that, when I meet someone that way, we have three things to talk about, right? My hometown, my business, my name. It's formal, but it's the way that's an 1890s, 1880s era. It's much more formal the way people talk to each other. They didn't have one name, right? I meet actors. I say to them, "What's your name?" And they say, "Scott." I'm like, "Scott who?" Look, you're not Cher. You're not Bono. Listen, I'm a producer. I'm getting ready to cast a movie. I was thinking about putting you in it, but how am I going to get a hold of Scott? So
right.
Let's hear your name. Thank you very much.
That's awesome. Story. Did you have a backstory for Bob Vance in your mind when you were portraying this character, like his upbringing? What you talked about Phyllis being on a pedestal.
Yeah, no, I mean, as I said, the Marine aspect of it informed above all else informs it, right? That if you're a Marine combat infantry officer, that Vietnam, that's the shit, right? You're in it. So a guy that has leadership qualities that made it through that is, going to be pretty stoic, going to hold his ground. He's solid, and he's a salesman above all else. I mean, that's why he always says Vance Refrigeration. He knows the camera's there. I mean, he's always promoting the business. It's not anything other than that.
What is your favorite Bob Vance line in the whole series?
If you ever lay a finger on Phyllis, I'll kill you.
If you ever lay a finger on Phyllis, I'll kill you.
Agreed. No fingers will be laid on Phyllis.
And see, that was a great moment for me individually as an actor, because we screened that episode. Well, when it was airing, we watched it live at Greg Daniels' house. Greg Daniels, of course, being the executive producer. And so the whole cast was there. And a special guest, Mr. Harold Ramis. Of course, Harold Ramis from Ghostbusters, the director, Harold Ramis. And that line, I killed him. I was watching him. I was watching him watch the episode, because Harold Ramis is interesting to me. And actually, I met him right when he walked up. I was standing out on the front stoop of Greg Daniels' house with Phyllis. We were just standing there chatting. Everybody else was inside, and he came walking up. I'm like, holy crap, it's Harold Ramis. You know, I knew that he was friends with Greg Daniels, but and he actually directed an episode of The Office later on, I believe. And unfortunately, I don't believe I wasn't in that, but you know, that he knew me and that I made him laugh. That's and the line killed for the whole room. I mean, it's crushed. And that was the way you playing completely against grain there. I mean, that big smile, I'll kill you. You know, I mean, that's how you do it. That's how Psycho Cop did it. I mean, he's always playing against the line, right? Smiling on the threatening line.
What is your favorite Office-related story to tell? Either something, you know, that happened on set, offset?
Well, look, here's something that not a lot of people know, but my mother's name is Phyllis Smith. And of course, on the show, I get married to Phyllis Smith. And my dad's name is Bob. So it was Bob and Phyllis. That's my mom and dad. And there I was getting married to Phyllis. And when I got married, I had a photo of them on their wedding day in my pocket.
So Phyllis's wedding episode, as you said, it's your favorite episode.
Oh.
How hard was it for you to stay in character during Michael's speech?
Oh, not hard. I mean, Bob doesn't find him funny in the least bit. So, you know, that he's funny to he's not even funny to anybody else. They were all agonizing as he's, once he calls her Easy Rider. The trick there was not to anticipate when he says it, right? You got to get up organically there. You can't be waiting and get up. So that was really what I was trying to do, was just make sure that I was really listening to what he was saying so that I wasn't getting myself ready. I was, the thing that was tough about that bit was I take the microphone from him, and then there was these big, heavy curtains, red curtains, and 3 steps down. So we go through those curtains, but Steve falls down the stairs. He twists his ankle, and he's hurt. He's screaming. I mean, it was a brutal moment. I'm like, oh my God, I've just heard the star of the show. Oh, it's great. And I was pissed because we hadn't rehearsed that. And I kept thinking, why are we doing this bit with me, with my hands on him, going through these curtains downstairs, and we're not rehearsing it? No. So we did it cold, and look what happened. He got hurt. So the thing is that he had hurt the ankle when he was shooting Evan Almighty a few months previously. And that kind of ankle tear, the ligaments, it takes months, sometimes a year for those to heal. So for him to retwist it, it's already susceptible. It's like with basketball players, when they get that high ankle sprain, the rest of the season, that baby's going to be cropping up, So, but anyway, he's laying there screaming, and I open the curtains back up, and I go, help! Because there's 200 people sitting out there, right? And here come, the PAs and the directors and the producers are all rushing because Carell's down. So fortunately, they iced it up, and we carried on. But that was, that moment was tough. But as far as laughing at him, I was never going to laugh at him. I mean, they were always trying to make you laugh, right? I mean, Rain and John and Steve. So people always say, is there a whole lot of improv? No, of course not. This is a network show. There's no improv. The only improv is when the guys try to make each other laugh, burning a cake. But otherwise, you're moving so fast that you got to do what they wrote. You're not there to rewrite it. You're there to do it exactly the way it's written.
It was funny. My next question was going to be, what was it like handling Steve Carell off the stage? So, that's great.
I just stayed out of his way. I mean, hello, how are you? Great job in that movie. Great job in that. I mean, you're always congratulating Steve Carell, right? There's always something going on with Steve Carell. But the burden of workload on him was so great. He carries every scene he's in. Every scene is about Steve Carell, Michael Scott. So he really spent a lot of time between takes learning the next thing, working on his lines, because so you just stay out of that guy's way and let him do the work, because he's got it, between takes, he's not a set bunny. He's not there to be your pal and kill, he's friendly. He's a very great guy. When we're in a group and we're all standing around, the interaction's fantastic. He's not a prima donna or a star, or, he's a regular guy. But, no, I mean, I'm a huge fan. I remember I told him when he quit or retired from the show, I congratulated him. And he's like, oh, for what? And I'm like, well, for leaving. And he's like, thank you. Because nobody else was saying that. I think everybody else was really upset that he was leaving, with good reason, because he was the show. I mean, it wasn't the same without him. That is for sure. And I said, no, you've done everything you can do with this. You're just repeating yourself after playing this part for 7 years. And he said, you're exactly right. That's why I'm leaving. I've done it. And shooting a movie is less time intensive than shooting a series. I mean, you go shoot a movie for a month and then you're off for a month. You shoot a series, you're on it. And that's one thing people never understood. I mean, Steve Carell was an employee. He had bosses. People said, no, Steve, your call sheet is 8. We want you here at 8. And he said, well, I told him I was going to be here. I have to go here and I ain't going to be here at 9. No, the call time is 8. So it always evolves. We also went to the Golden Globes. We were nominated for a Golden Globe, and we lost Ugly Betty, I think. Which is funny because then, the cameras are there and you're all trying to act like you're a happy loser. Yeah, we're happy this dumbass show called Ugly Betty just beat us for a Golden Globe. Congratulations, Ugly Betty. You're ugly.
So imagination a little bit. What do you think Phyllis and Bob are up to today?
Still happily married. Still selling refrigerators. I think that I don't remember, there was some line they did in one of the episodes where they said we went to St. Louis or something. I mean, no, they're together. They're happily married. I'm drinking out of my Vance Refrigeration. Get this at NBC.com. It's about $35. It's the best glass I've ever had, really. I love it. And of course, the hoodie. Me can get the hoodies. This is the first hoodie. This came out the first week after I was on the show, and I was so excited. I'm like, I have a hoodie. Somebody made a hoodie. Of course, it was on Cafe Press was the name of the site, and these people are just stealing this. They're not. This is trademark stuff. NBC could shut them down eventually, but I bought a bunch of them. And I'm giving them out, Ray Daniels gets one. Steve Carell, you get one. John Krasinski, you get one. But yeah, that's right. We want you to wear this Bob Vance sweatshirt around. And they all did. So.
It's pretty great. You must have been pretty excited whenever the Valentine's Day episode came around and your character was invoked again with all of the Valentine's Day gifts. You weren't in that episode, but Phyllis was getting gifts all.
Yes, but there's an even better real life story. I saw that episode, and the very next morning, Phyllis got a dozen long-stemmed red roses delivered to the makeup trailer on the lot. The card was not signed. It just said a quote from E.E. Cummings. Though love be a day and life be nothing, it shall not stop kissing. So, cut to me arriving a few weeks later. I entered the trailer. Phil's got these roses, but we don't know who sent them. Do you know who sent them? And I said, though love be a day, life be nothing, shall not stop kissing. Real life romance.
That's pretty great.
Phyllis was the only one who got a dozen long stem roses in the makeup trailer on Valentine's Day. So get that, ladies.
That's awesome. So any other stories that you love to share about your time on The Office?
Well, you know, I remember we were standing outside the chapel when Phyllis and I got married, and it was this big group shot, and it's the bit right before we walk out. And there's the van. This is the first time I ever saw the logo and the penguin and all this. I'm like, look at the logo. You know, I mean, I just fallen in love with this logo. And we were standing there, and it was just a beautiful moment between me and her. And she said, you know, we're going to have a really hard time topping this. And I said, well, you know, even if we don't, it'll always live on video. We'll always have this wedding. So no matter what happened, we got this.
That's great. One of my favorite Bob Vance and Phyllis moments is probably, I forgot the Crime Aid, I think is the name of the episode.
Brilliant episode.
Yeah.
That's the bidding for the hug.
Yes, the bidding for the hug.
Well, there was the one take that made broadcast. It's absolutely musical, the way the bidding goes back and forth. Everybody just nailed it. And Dwight's up there and he's adding a penny every time. $300 and 1 penny. And, you know, I mean, it was just a perfect sequence. And it lasted for about a minute, that bit. And we all knew after that take, everybody just kind of looked around and went, yeah, we're going to top that. There's no way. But that was a common thing. I remember I was called in to do a little bit on Women's Appreciation, their big broadcast, when Phyllis was splashed by a rape flasher parking lot, right? And they were all, you know, was doing that musical calling, line, and just precision, the precision of it. I was thinking, man, the talent in this room is amazing. I mean, these people, wow, you know, it's a perfect storm how that group came together. I mean, it all goes to the casting. You know, Greg Daniels has the eye. He put it together. I mean, genius.
For sure. So what have you been up to lately?
Well, I'm writing now, and I made a mockumentary last year. I would like everybody to rent this, to go to watch it. It's on Amazon Prime right now. It's called Dick Dixter.
Saw that on IMDb.
Yes, sir. Dick Dixter. He's a Hollywood film director, and he's a total hack. He's a drunk, and he's forced to remake his only hit horror film into porno. He owes everybody money. You know, I mean, you know, he's a perfect storm. Speaking of perfect storm, he's drunk the whole movie. The bottle of Jim Beam never leaves his hand. This guy makes Harvey Weinstein look like an angel. All right. It's no holds barred, buddy.
Okay.
I'm not a PC guy. I don't believe in PC comedy. I believe everyone is a fair target. Okay. That's the way I roll.
That's awesome. So what are you working on now? What's next?
There's on the 22nd February here, we're having a screening of Psycho Cop Returns, which is very exciting because there was a Blu-ray print of it, which came out last year. First time it had been on Blu-ray. And it was rediscovered by all the critics, and they loved it. So I've actually written Psycho Cop 3, believe it or not, and I'm going to take another crack at it. And I'm going to meet with Adam Rifkin, who's the famous director who directed Psycho Cop Returns, and my buddy Nick Vallelonga, who I put into Psycho Cop Returns, who last year won 2 Academy Awards for a little film called Green Book. So I will be recruiting those 2 guys to participate in Psycho Cop 3. I've written the script. It's funny. I brought him into this century. He has an iPhone. Cop's got to have an iPhone. He talks to Satan, of course. He's talking to Satan, you know.
Right.
Right. But it's, it's violent and dark, and I really want to make it scary. I really want to, get in there and shake the peach.
So, last office related question I have. If you had to sum up what the overall thesis of The Office is, one of the things I do is I look at the deeper meaning of what every episode means. But as a series as a whole, what do you think the overall thesis of The Office is?
Ordinary Americans in an ordinary place doing ordinary things and making the best of it.
I like that. That's good. That's good.
Those characters aren't extreme. I mean, they're silly. They're a lot of them are, archetypes. I mean, but the humanity of Oscar, for instance, I mean, the talent of Oscar. I mean, this guy, come on, he could have his own show easily. That guy is burning with talent. Same thing with all the players. All the players, were just immensely gifted. And they bring it to life. I mean, the writer, as I said, it's a perfect storm. Writers, actors, bang. It happens rarely. It's very rare. But we happen to, get that together. And then, as you notice, the show changed because the writers changed. Michael Schur and Greg moved over to Parks and Rec. And then the Vance Refrigeration guys, they started writing Ghostbusters 3. And so we get these new writers. Now, the new writers are fans of the show. So they start writing jokes. They think the characters are funny. And so the characters became much jokier later on. The first few seasons are just purely behavioral comedy. They weren't writing set up, punchline. But we had some more sitcom events, as time went on. And I think the thing that perfectly illustrates this more than anything else is in 2006, The Office wins the Best Comedy Emmy. Big deal, huge deal. Second season, we win it. Great party. And at that event, Carol Burnett is being honored. And so she says to Greg Daniels, I want to be on your show. Well, they asked Greg Daniels, Carol Burnett wants to be on the show. Do you want to have, he says, we can't have her on this show. She'll destroy all the reality. I mean, she's way too big of a star to be on our show. And at the time, I was going, Carol Burnett, let's get her. Let's put her to work for Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration. So, so now cut to season 5, 6. Now the cameos start. Here comes Kathy Bates, James Spader, and Timothy Oliphant, and Will Ferrell, and Amy Peets, and on and on and on. Ricky Gervais, for God's sakes, is doing a cameo. So everybody's, it's not, we're going to ruin the authenticity of it anymore. We're all living above it at this point.
You mentioned after Carell left, that was one of the, things I see online, a lot of just, I stopped watching after Carell left. I think there's a lot of really good bits that you miss, but, it's it definitely, it changed.
It's a hodgepodge. It's a smorgasbord. They're just throwing shit up against the wall at that point. I mean, Pam and Jim are kind of played. I mean, the whole thing is the anticipation of them getting there. If they could have drawn that out anymore, they would have. But by that time, the audience had turned on them. It was like, we've got to have them together. We've got to have jam. Yeah. So, I mean, the audience sometimes forces things as well.
Well, I think that pretty much wraps up what I had to ask.
I said we're chatty Cathy's this morning.
I super appreciate your time. If I was asking questions about Phyllis's wedding. I've got that episode coming up down the pipe a little bit, probably closer to the beginning of the summertime. So if in the future, if I have some questions, I might be reaching out to you.
Okay, feel free to. I'd be happy to sit in when you watch that.
All right, cool. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time. And I'll be reaching back out to you for sure soon.
All right, Chris Mullen, Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration.